For over 30 years, The Simpsons have stood out for predicting future events with impressive accuracy, from Donald Trump's rise to the presidency to the COVID-19 pandemic. This animated show anticipated major global events long before they became a reality. But what if their most surprising predictions are still to come? With the approach of April 2025, several prophecies from this beloved show seem increasingly plausible. Let's explore The Simpsons' most impactful predictions for this period. In the episode Bart to the Future, aired in 2000, The Simpsons suggested that Donald Trump would become president and leave the country in financial ruin. In the plot, President Lisa faces a scenario of massive economic crisis, with crushing external debt, the collapse of international trade, and difficulties for citizens to acquire basic goods. At that time, the idea sounded like satire, but now, in April 2025, some argue that this prediction is becoming a reality, with new government policies already in place. Economists are debating the possible impacts, highlighting changes in immigration policies, trade regulations, and international agreements that could cause market volatility. After an initial stock market peak following the 2024 elections, recent fluctuations have raised doubts about long-term stability. If the economy reaches a critical point, April 2025 could mark the moment everything collapses, with record inflation, skyrocketing interest rates, and millions of Americans unable to afford basic expenses like food, fuel, and housing, exactly the financial disaster predicted by The Simpsons creators 25 years ago. In the episode Frankcoin from 2020, the series introduced a fictional cryptocurrency created by Professor Frank. While the intention was to satirize the emerging trend of digital currencies, the plot ended up forecasting the Bitcoin boom in the real world. The episode even included a song explaining how blockchain works, years before the concept was widely understood. By April 2025, the similarities between the plot and real events are striking. Over the last 12 months, financial institutions have invested billions in cryptocurrencies, governments have begun developing their own digital currencies, and major retail chains have started accepting Bitcoin in everyday transactions. This growth mirrors the rapid rise of Frankcoin in the plot, but as illustrated, financial peaks can be accompanied by dangers. Analysts are warning about the possibility of a sharp market correction after unprecedented valuations. Some predict that Bitcoin could even exceed $200,000, raising fears that the crypto bubble will burst just as the satire suggested in the 2011 episode Vacations of the Future. Previously, The Simpsons depicted Springfield as being threatened by a black hole devouring everything in its path, a concept presented humorously. However, current astronomers say that this idea may not be as far-fetched as once thought. NASA scientists have been monitoring unprecedented energy bursts from deep space, and a black hole called J2157 has shown accelerated growth, consuming mass faster than expected. Additionally, the recent detection of gravitational waves indicates that a rogue black hole is approaching our solar system. What impact would this have on Earth? Some physicists suggest that April 2025 could witness an event strong enough to disturb the planet's magnetic field, causing power outages, satellite failures, and even alterations in Earth's orbit. While the probability of a direct collision is low, the effects of a nearby black hole could modify Earth's gravity and radically change our existence, making us wonder if The Simpsons foresaw a disaster that science is just beginning to understand. In Much Ado About Nothing from 1996, The Simpsons presented a Springfield in the midst of an economic crisis, with government officials desperately trying to raise funds and citizens enraged by high prices. Today, many experts believe that April 2025 could be the setting for a new global financial crisis. Warnings of a severe recession are intensifying, with indicators such as high inflation, rising national debt, and banking instability. Major corporations, including tech companies and retail chains, have already started mass layoffs, while financial institutions face defaults and the housing market collapses, as many are unable to maintain their mortgages, with the Federal Reserve struggling to contain inflation. Some analysts predict that by April 2025, the economy could fall into a depression, with company closures, massive unemployment, and widespread panic, just as The Simpsons predicted decades ago. In the 2005 episode Midnight RX, the series portrayed a future where Americans were forced to cross the border to Canada just to access affordable medication due to chaos in treatment costs. In the storyline, Springfield residents resorted to clandestine crossings to get medicines while health costs soared. Moving forward to April 2025, this prediction seems to be materializing, with the new government reducing federal health investments, cutting subsidies, and pulling the US away from universal coverage agreements. Millions could lose access to essential treatments, hospitals could face collapse, and the price of medicines could skyrocket, forcing families to turn to medical tourism to survive with rising private insurance costs. The Simpsons' prediction of a collapsing healthcare system seems increasingly plausible. In Great Gatsby from 2017, The Simpsons made a grim allusion to the music industry by following a billionaire producer named J.G., responsible for lavish parties similar to what is known about P. Diddy and his celebrity encounters. Many fans interpreted this scene as a hint that a Diddy list containing the names of powerful figures linked to dark activities might one day be exposed, since P. Diddy's detention, investigations, trials, and allegations have shaken the music and entertainment industry. Speculation abounds that, with recent legal developments, April 2025 could be the moment this list is revealed, causing a colossal impact on the industry and changing the public's perception of numerous celebrities. In Margie Chronicles from 2016, the episode followed Lisa and other volunteers in a training program to live on Mars. At the time, the idea of leaving Earth seemed like science fiction, but today the race for Mars colonization has gained new momentum. Agencies like NASA and private companies, especially SpaceX, have accelerated their interplanetary travel projects. Rumors suggest that by April 2025, the first official Mars colonization training program might be announced, including simulations of Martian environments, isolation experiments, and training to cope with the harsh conditions of space. If this prediction comes true, humanity could cease to be solely Earthbound, exactly as The Simpsons anticipated in Bart Gets an F from 2004, when they predicted that the US and China would become fierce economic rivals, fueling global tensions. At that time, the satire seemed exaggerated, but recent years have shown a gradual increase in tensions, tariffs, military demonstrations, and intense diplomatic conflicts. With Trump's return to the White House, April 2025 is expected to be the boiling point where even stricter trade restrictions are imposed. This hardening of commercial relations could be the trigger for an unprecedented economic crisis, which some experts fear could escalate into a large-scale conflict, possibly leading to a global war. In Bart to the Future from 2000, the series suggested a future in which the world was on the brink of an irreversible global conflict, with the United States mired in political and economic problems. The episode's dark humor covers a prediction that, for some, has strengthened over time with growing tensions between various nations, from conflicts between the US and China to friction between Russia and NATO to disputes in the Middle East. It is warned that April 2025 could mark the start of a conflict of proportions that recalls World War I, where a simple incident triggers a global chain reaction, similar to the satire initially proposed by The Simpsons in the Full Monty episode from 2010. A somber detail was left for the most attentive fans: a gravestone in Springfield Cemetery with the dates 1952 to 2025, dedicated to Vladimir Putin. At the time, few gave it much importance, but today this detail raises speculation about the health of the Russian leader. In recent months, rumors about Putin's health have circulated, alleging serious illnesses, emergency procedures, and abnormal bodily movements during public appearances. If Putin were to die in April 2025, it could trigger a wave of instability in Russia, with potential political turmoil and escalating military conflicts, confirming The Simpsons' unsettling vision in Lisa's wedding from 2010. The Simpsons imagined a future in which technology dominated personal relationships, video calls, smartwatches, and interactions mediated by artificial intelligence had become commonplace. However, one detail stood out: a virtual engagement conducted through a virtual reality visor, which predicted a future where immersive experiences would merge with real life. Now, in April 2025, signs of this phenomenon are already visible, with virtual weddings emerging in complete digital environments where guests from all over the world participate using visors. Major tech companies like Meta and Apple are investing heavily in this market, and rumors point to a significant growth of virtual ceremonies and dining experiences, transforming how we celebrate special moments. In Bart Gets Famous from 1994, The Simpsons anticipated the arrival of robotic assistants and mechanical animals. At the time, the idea of having robotic pets and artificial intelligence assistants seemed impossible, but today companies like Boston Dynamics, Tesla, and Google have invested in developing advanced robotic dogs and automated assistants. Testing with these devices is already taking place in security monitoring and even home environments. It is suggested that by April 2025, the mass production of these robots could make them accessible to the general public, replacing, for example, guard dogs and even assisting in daily household tasks. Despite these innovations, concerns about the replacement of human jobs and the risk of excessive reliance on AI systems remain, leading to the reflection The Simpsons posed about the dangers of this evolution. In future drama from 2005, The Simpsons depicted a future where society had become so dependent on digital technology that a single failure could paralyze the world. In the storyline, a massive energy failure created widespread chaos, serving as a warning for a potential technological crisis. By April 2025, experts fear that a severe internet outage, possibly due to cyber attacks, government experiments, or even a solar storm, could trigger a collapse of global networks. The impact would be devastating. Banks, businesses, and governments would be affected, with transactions interrupted and a wave of panic spreading. If this prediction comes true, we could face a digital blackout that could drastically alter the dynamics of society. In Thank God It's Doomsday from 2005, Homer is struck by visions of the end of the world, convinced that cosmic signs and impending disasters herald an apocalypse. At the time, it was just a humorous satire, but with the increase in extreme climate disasters, geopolitical conflicts, and unexplained cosmic phenomena, some theorists suggest that April 2025 could mark the beginning of an irreversible global collapse, with more frequent earthquakes, mysterious signals detected by scientists, and military emergency mobilizations. Many fear that conditions could worsen to the point of making the continuity of civilization as we know it impossible. In future drama from 2005, The Simpsons imagined a futuristic Springfield where cars floated, replacing conventional vehicles. While this idea seemed pure fiction, today companies like Tesla, Hyundai, and Clean Vision have been testing prototypes of flying vehicles. Recent reports indicate that by April 2025, the first commercially available flying cars could be launched. However, this revolution in mobility brings challenges: air traffic regulations, congestion risks in the skies, and the possibility of cyber attacks on AI systems, sparking a debate on whether this innovation will be an advancement or the harbinger of new disasters. In the Full Monty episode from 2010, The Simpsons predicted a future in which renewable energy would be replaced by fossil fuels. At that time, the idea of abandoning clean energy seemed absurd, but today, with Trump's return to power and his pro-fossil fuel stance, there are fears that April 2025 could mark a drastic shift in environmental policies. Analysts predict that subsidies will be redirected to the oil and gas industry, while investments in solar and wind energy will decrease, and environmental laws could be relaxed to favor corporate interests, taking the country down a path of accelerated environmental degradation. In Bart's Comet from 1993, Springfield faces an environmental disaster that submerges much of the city. Although originally a parody, recent data on global warming suggests that April 2025 could bring unprecedented flooding in various parts of the world, with rising temperatures accelerating the melting of polar ice caps. There is a real risk that entire cities could be swallowed by continuous rain. The prospect of massive evacuations, multi-million-dollar damage to infrastructure, and the impact on the lives of millions of people strengthens the eerie similarity with the satirical prediction of The Simpsons. In Margin Chains from 1993, The Simpsons introduced the Osaka flu virus, which spread rapidly through Springfield and created a panic atmosphere. At the time, it was considered just another joke characteristic of the show, but after the occurrence of COVID-19, this prediction took on a more real shape. Today, experts are warning about the possibility of a new global pandemic, with virus strains from bird flu outbreaks to antibiotic-resistant bacteria representing emerging threats. Reports indicate that governments are already stockpiling medical supplies, and the World Health Organization has issued alerts about virulent mutations. If April 2025 marks the onset of a new health crisis, we will be facing a repetitive cycle of what The Simpsons predicted. Remember the absurd invention by Homer's half-brother Herb, who created a baby translator in Lisa's Wedding from 1998. At the time, it was just an irreverent joke, but today advances in artificial intelligence and vocal pattern analysis have developed to the point where an AI-powered baby translator might be much closer to reality than we imagined. Researchers from institutions like MIT and Google are already developing systems capable of interpreting babies' cries and identifying basic emotions. If this technology comes to fruition in April 2025, parents could finally understand what their little ones are trying to say, revolutionizing the experience of parenthood. In one of the boldest episodes, Treehouse of Horror 28 from 2017, The Simpsons predicted that Ivanka Trump would venture into politics, with Homer wearing a badge saying Ivanka 28. At the time, many laughed off the idea, considering it just a critique of the Trump family's political influence. However, with Trump's return to the presidency, Ivanka has consolidated her position as an influential figure in Republican circles. Sources suggest she could announce her candidacy in April 2025, which would not only confirm the Simpsons' prediction but also radically change the political landscape in the United States. So, which of these predictions seems most plausible to you? Leave your comment and share your opinion. Thanks for joining us in this video.